Welcome to Paranormal Heart, a place where people can talk about their paranormal experiences. With your host, Kat Ward.
Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast, a safe place to talk about your paranormal encounters. I'm your host, Kat Ward. Happy New Year, everyone! I can't believe it's 2024. I hope you all had a safe and fun New Year. Did you make any New Year's resolutions? I'd love to hear them if you have. Before I introduce my next guest, if you'd like to be a guest, or if you'd like me to narrate your creepy or paranormal encounters, I am looking for you. Yes, you. You can email me at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. And folks, I have listeners all over the world. I'd love for you to send me an email and tell me what part of the world you're listening from and what part of the paranormal you like the most. Is it ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, or something else? I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget, new episodes are released on the second and last Sunday of each month. You can find me on YouTube, Podbean, KPNL Digital Network, and any place you find fine podcasts. Whatever platform you listen on, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. It helps people find the show and listen to encounters they may have shared with my guests. Folks, my first guest of 2024 is from Newfoundland, Canada, Jennifer Vallis-Noseworthy. Oh gosh, I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sorry if I haven't, Jennifer. Jennifer talks about various haunted places in Newfoundland, some experiences she's had working as a nurse, UFOs and extraterrestrials, and of course, her amazing podcast, Paranormal NL Podcast. You can find her show on Spotify, so check out her amazing show. Now, on with the show. Happy New Year! Welcome, Jennifer, to Paranormal Heart Podcast. You are the first guest of 2024.
Oh, how exciting! Happy New Year to you, Kat, and your podcast.
Thank you.
I'm really glad to be on with you today.
Me too. The listeners already know that I absolutely love every guest that I've had, but I am partial, especially if they're Canadian, because I'm Canadian. So most of my guests are usually from the States. But yeah, so it's a real treat for me whenever I get to speak to someone who's in Canada.
Well, you got a great mix today because I am a Newfoundlander, but I also lived in the USA for 23 years doing travel nursing.
Wow.
And I've got a lot of experiences paranormally with that also.
That's amazing. Nursing is not an easy job, especially ever since COVID. I see anybody in the medical field, and it's just like so many of them are so tired because there's so many people going to emergency rooms and all that. But so kudos to you.
We could do a whole separate podcast on that.
We probably could.
The horrors of COVID being a nurse.
Oh, Lordy. That's scary in itself right there.
That's right.
So how did the paranormal start with you? How did you get your interest?
Well, I've had a lot of different shifts that I've worked in different places in the world over the years. And some of the things that stuck out to me were unexplained things. Most of them were on the night shift. A lot of people in the paranormal world like to call that the witching hour. And, I was, for the longest time, a bit of a naysayer. I would watch, the typical paranormal shows, with people running around chasing ghosts and stuff. But I was kind of a bit of a skeptical until I had a lot of my own experiences that were unexplained. And from there, I started looking into it a little bit more. And being here in Newfoundland, being the oldest place in North America, St. John's is one of the oldest cities in North America. We do have a lot of ghosts here. And, one of the people who I did interview, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, your listeners, with Dale Jarvis on the Haunted Hike. Well, he goes around downtown in St. John's and talks a lot about the different stories. So the history goes pretty far back. And a lot of other places I've worked around the world, and in Texas and Virginia, I've had different experiences that were unexplained that I'm sure have you had any of your own?
I've had a few. I don't think I've had as many as I would like. Some people say I'm crazy because I want to have, as long as they're safe, But my very first experience was when I was a child with a hat man, but he was the short version. He was 4 feet tall. The apartment building that we lived in, we stayed there, I think, from the age of 5 until I was about 13 years old. And I used to see him quite frequently, and only knew about him later on as an adult, that I'd never heard of anybody else talking about such a shadow person before. So the more I got into the paranormal and started listening to a lot of paranormal podcasts, then I realized, oh wow, like this is not just me having this experience.
Well, one of the places that I worked at was a very small cottage hospital. And there wasn't very many employees there. So as a nurse, you were in charge of the entire building.
Oh, wow.
Upstairs, downstairs, basement, everything. So when it came time to lock the emergency room doors, you would have to do that. And you would have to go around and ensure everything was safe. In that type of building, usually there's no security. You're the security. And so it was a very, very cold night in a winter on a night shift. And several different things happened that night, really odd things. We had a palliative care room, and somebody had passed not too long ago. I want to say it was the night before. And we went into the room, tidying things up. And, people think, okay, TV, remote. I couldn't find the remote, and the TV was on. I said, oh, that's weird. I just said out loud, I went, can you turn off the TV for me? Bing, TV went off.
Oh.
I said, okay. So I said to myself, yeah, that's probably just the electrical, it just went off, right? Because it was storming. So I said, okay, can you turn the light off for me too while you're at it? Yep, light came off. I said, okay, that's it. I walked out of there. But later on that night, I was on a break, and that same room was open. So I said, I'll go in here and sit down and have a little break. So I was sitting in there on my break, hour long, and started to doze off, and something smacked me in the face. It hurt. It woke me up, and I had a big, bruise, and then a zit came out. It was really weird. I thought, okay, I still don't believe what's going on. I said, okay. So I worked another shift at the same hospital, or the same little cottage place, and there was a lot of really weird, unexplained things. So a patient kept telling me, come here, she said, there's something on the wall. I thought, okay, she's got a urinary tract infection or something, why is, looking at the wall and things, because that's what you think of as a nurse, right? Okay, what's the underlying cause? You don't think about ghosts, you think about the medical. So I go in and I'm taking care of her, and she's like, look, it's on my bed, it's right next to my leg. So of course, it appeased her, and I was curious, right? I didn't believe what she was saying. I was trying to assess the catheter and all this and that. Yeah. So I reached down, I touched the bed, and it was freezing right there. And that one spot. The rest of the bed was nice and warm because she had one of those warming blankets on her.
Right.
That's really weird. And she said, look, do you see him over there? And there was a shadow. I said, no, that's nothing. And then I went down the hall because that's where the shadow went. I said, okay, maybe there's somebody must be there because that's me. I'm supposed to be doing the security. So I look, I don't see nobody there. And then the hall that I looked down, that door blew open, and then the alarm went off. I said, okay, that's weird. So I just went and shut the door, didn't think anything of it. And then I said, okay, because you get another 15-minute break, right? Mm-hmm. So I sat down again on another, I had a 15-minute break. Okay. So this time I went into a different room. There was nobody in there. It was like a triage room. So I sat down in there, and then something grabbed my hand. I was like, ugh. I woke up. I was like, yuck, right? Like, what is that? And I felt something sit on the bed next to me, but nothing was there. I was like, okay, this this is a little bit too much. And all this was going on the same night, and I'm the only person going around. So I got a lot of other things that happened to me at other different hospitals. Another time I was in this one place that was a mental health facility, and I was the only one in there, and the lights, they kept going out. So they came in and they fixed the lights. I was the only one working in there. It was a stormy afternoon. I went in there anyway, and this was in an office type environment, a different type of nursing job. So I said, okay, I don't mind that. So I went in, and the lights were off again. I said, that's odd. I know we fixed them. So I went over and I turned them on, and they were on. So I went and I sat down, and I was listening to something. I took my lunch break, but I stayed at my desk. I didn't go out to lunch because it was ugly out. I said, okay, I'll stay here at my desk for lunch. So I was looking around on Facebook, scrolling as most people do, and I was looking at some bird or something. He was whistling. And as soon as that whistling started, the lights went off, and the back door flew open. It was closed. I checked it earlier, and the alarm went off. I said, okay, this is really weird. So I called security, and he came up and he checked it. No, it's all good. Like, we replaced the battery. Did you sure you didn't open it? I said, no. He closed it. There was nothing wrong with the door. It was a really heavy door, and you had to push this to get it open. I mean, a man would have a problem opening it. So, and then somebody told me then the next day, they laughed. I said, don't whistle around here. I said, well, why not? They said, because they don't like it. So I said, okay, I'm not going to whistle. But I've had a lot of other things within the family and other experiences that I've had that I haven't told you about yet. But yeah, that's a few of mine.
Oh, wow.
That turned me from, I guess, a naysayer to a believer. And then when I moved back home here, travel nursing, I said, okay, I'm going to move back to Newfoundland. But I was always interested in it. And I said, okay, I think I'm going to start a podcast about this and talk to different people about it. And there is a big interest in it, Kat, right?
Oh, I know. It's huge.
So we're not the only ones having experiences.
No, like we said before we started recording, the thing that fascinates me the most about the paranormal topic is so many people globally are having similar experiences, whether it's with ghosts or UFOs or various cryptids, and they're having the same experiences. And it doesn't matter what religion or what country they're from. It's just, to me, the paranormal, these experiences, it brings people together, because once they start hearing about other people having similar experiences, then they realize, oh, wow, there's so many more people. Like I mentioned about the Hat Man. All my childhood years until I was an adult, I didn't know that this was actually a thing, like the Hat Man. And I was so excited to find out other people were having the same experiences.
I want to say I interviewed a person one time, and they said something about Hat Man. That's a popular one.
Yep.
And you know what you said about religions and things like that. I've had people on the show from different religions, different countries, and it's all similarities. Now, and then when you talk about it, you know, it's the metaphysical part of it. It's all similar.
Yep.
There's so many different things. And we were talking earlier before we got on the show, you mentioned cryptids and UFOs and things like that. Well, here in Newfoundland and Labrador, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Bell Island boom.
No, I haven't.
Now, I haven't done an episode on it yet. I would like to. I want to, if anybody's listening and would like to share their information, head on over to my podcast. It's called Paranormal NL on Spotify, and I'll hook you up, and just check me out on Facebook, on Messenger, and I can get you your episode. But I want to tell you a little bit about it. William Shatner actually covered this and did a whole episode on the Bell Island boom. And he has a series that he does lately. I want to say, I think it's called The Unexplained. I might be wrong on the title of his show, but yes, he covered a complete episode about it. And it's more UFO related. Now, in Newfoundland and Labrador, you wouldn't think there's much UFO activity, but there is. And I also interviewed another person, Sasha. We discussed a lot of things in one of our episodes with her and the military UFOs and being part of MUFON. So I don't know if you've ever interviewed or talked to anybody who is a part of MUFON.
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Yes. I was thinking about joining that, actually. It is a process involved. You have to get their book and read it and do a test and become proficient. And then when there are investigations called in, you may be one of the investigators if it's in your area. But Newfoundland and Labrador does have a lot of UFO incidents, and the Bell Island boom was one of them, and it was worldwide that people had talked about it and heard about it in the news.
Wow, I have to look more into that. It's the first I've heard of it. So can you tell us more about the Bell Island boom?
I'm gonna keep that one. I'm not going to say too much about that one, but what I do want to talk about with Bell Island is, I don't know if you've heard much of other part of Bell Island was a mining place. Now, Bell Island is one of the most haunted places, I would arguably say, in North America. When there was a season that came out on T+E, and it was called History's Most Haunted. They started one of their episodes on Bell Island because of the fact that we had a World War II Nazi submarine take down a lot of our Newfoundland ships because of the iron ore. They did not want the iron ore to be used to go against them. So they actually blew up several different things in and ships in and around Newfoundland. And the people who had died, some of the people who died and also were injured were pulled up onto the beach in certain houses there. And Mike Hickey also, I interviewed him on one of my podcast episodes. He was there while they filmed, and he felt like he was pushed. No word of a lie in that house where they were doing that paranormal episode. And that's just the house. Then they also went down into the mines during that episode, and it was very, very haunted down there. Now, I also did an interview with a diver from Ocean Quest here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Really?
Yes, and his name is John Oliveira. Johnny O, we like to call him. And he takes people down into the shipwrecks to dive around the shipwrecks, which is a very interesting thing to do for tourism in Newfoundland and Labrador. If you ever come and visit us, go to Bell Island, and because Henry Crane is head of tourism there. But yes, with Ocean Quest, they'll take you on several different dives around Newfoundland and Labrador, and also into the mine. There's also a mine tour. So there's a lot of history in Newfoundland and Labrador, and that's just one place that I'd mentioned as Bell Island. Now, downtown, I also mentioned Dale has a lot of different stories down there. And yes, Newfoundland is rich with things. And, you know, the Duke of Duckworth, have you ever heard of that?
No. Wow, you're really educating me about Newfoundland.
There's a bar downtown called the Duke of Duckworth. Now, that bar was seen a lot on the TV show Republic of Doyle. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever heard of that TV
I've heard of
show.
it, yep.
Well, yeah, the Duke was often on there. And one of the co-owners, Colin Dalton, talked about a ghost who lives there, and his name is Fred. But now, if you listen to that episode, the ghost name is not really Fred; it's somebody else. Now, but my rendition, I would like to, well, I'm in the process right now of maybe sending a team that we're putting together, a Paranormal NL ghost hunting team. And we're looking for different places to go and investigate. And one of them may be the Duke of Duckworth. The Duke was actually a real person who lived and breathed here in Newfoundland, Labrador. So maybe it's the Duke, or maybe it could be the other guy who hung himself that was adjacent to the building hundreds of years ago. And then Jonathan Mallard, you know Jonathan.
Oh, yes.
He's awesome. He has the Odd to Newfoundland, the Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal
I love John.
Podcast. And now John, he did Ladd's Life After Death Society.
Yep.
And he did that with Robert Dumont. And the both of them I interviewed. And the EVPs that he captured were amazing. Both of them. And John even wrote a book about it.
Yep.
EVPs in Newfoundland.
I bought it, yeah.
There's so many different aspects. Yeah. And you know what else? Folklore here in Newfoundland and Labrador and the Atlantic provinces is awesome. I spoke with so many different people with Mon Memorial University of Newfoundland, Labrador. I spoke to Dr. Holly Everett. She talked about roadside crosses.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very, when you're driving by on a road trip and you see the cross, it's so interesting to hear the folklore behind those stories. And then I also spoke to another person from Mon about all the different graveyards here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And, there's so many different old graveyards, and to get into that and actually go ghost hunting in them. Jonathan has been to some of them, and some of the wildest EVPs in my mind that he got were a lot of them were in cemeteries.
Yep. Yeah, he's amazing when it comes to EVPs.
Now, but when I talk to Jonathan, or whichever you want to call him, just don't call him Collect, right? We won't answer the phone.
That's right.
In broad daylight, he captured EVPs in houses, apartments, all kinds of different places. You just don't know. I mean, people think, it only happens at night. No, it doesn't. That story that I told you about the experience that I had, that was in broad daylight. That was in the middle of the day. That wasn't at night.
Wow.
The second experience with the whistle, that was in broad daylight. I have had whistling experiences at night in hospitals with nobody there, but the list goes on.
Wow. Yeah, I think the reason, because people ask me just what you mentioned, is paranormal experiences only happen at night. It's like, no, happens at any time of day. It's a lot more noticeable at night because things are quieter. And if you're investigating, a lot of times it's better to do it at night because your equipment, you don't have car lights and all that interfering with your investigation. So sometimes it's just easier to do it at night because it's quieter.
True. Now, I have seen a lot of investigations done in the daylight, and people are twice as amazed when they capture things in the broad daylight. People think, no, we turn on the light and the ghost disappears. No, it's still there.
Yeah.
You just,
Yeah, you just don't see it.
Right. Or a lot of times, things happen and you just don't see it anyway. But a lot of the different devices that I do see people use are interesting. You see them with the SLS and the night vision cams and the all the different broad spectrums that you can use, and all the different types of equipment that you can hunt with. I spoke to another person, Rasan Saif from Bangladesh. He went over and investigated a local farm that people thought were haunted, and that was a 2-part episode. And it was interesting to hear his different cultural renditions and his cultural stories about ghosts. You had mentioned earlier about religion. Doesn't matter what religion you are, people are still going to experience it.
Yep.
Now, you also talked about UFOs. And I interviewed somebody, Leah Lois Walters Guerrero and Betty Collins, and we talked about CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Stephen Greer, the ufologist.
No.
But yeah, he has a protocol, a CE5 protocol, where you do certain type of metaphysical meditation, and you're pretty much guaranteed a CE5 close encounter of fifth kind. And, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
Or Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. Have you ever seen that? Well, he had CE5 right then and there. I mean, that was documented. The other person was...
Sorry, can you explain to the listeners what CE5 is?
CE5... when you get close encounter, CE, of the first, second, third, and fifth kind. So fifth kind is even a higher level of dimension than the fourth kind. This is almost on demand, where mostly orbs people see. And you use your metaphysical, and I don't want to get too much involved with it, but it's mostly meditation, where you get to a certain level of meditation and you open up. And, this is another topic that a lot of some people believe, some people don't, but they did use it in ancient times. And often people wonder, are we tapping into something on the different chakras that they knew, that we forgot about, that we can do, that everybody can do?
Yep.
Yeah. And then the other person who I forgot to mention was Katie Crane. She talked about, she was the one who mentioned the cemetery research with Newfoundland and Labrador. And there's a really interesting app that I really think is interesting. And Dale worked on her with this also, I do believe. I want to call it the billionaire. I had to go look at the name of it. But where you take a picture of the grave or the stone, and it gets put up on the website, and you can actually use this for ancestry and also researching for your ancestry. So you can actually see the graves and things like that.
That's interesting.
You had also mentioned cryptids.
Yep.
I don't know if you would listen to the episode with Dr. Judd Burton. He gets into giants and vampires. He's an archaeologist, and he's also an anthropologist, and has a lot of research on those different topics. So have you ever seen a cryptid?
No. Sadly, no. Again, sadly, no. I know so many people who have had experiences on everything of the paranormal. They just seem to be magnets for it. So I don't know if I'm just not picking up on various signs, and I'm just ignoring things. I am open to wanting to see things. I have had some experiences, but we might have the team that I'm with, Canadian Supernatural Research Society. It's a mouthful. We did an investigation one time at a location here. The listeners know about this. At a location here called Buck Hill. I'll just tell you quickly the legend. I think was it the 1800s or 1600s? I can never remember when. There was this logger and his wife and daughter living on Buck Hill, and it was wintertime, and the door flew open. The dog ran out. The daughter went to look for the dog. When the father came home, his wife said she ran out. He went to find her and never found her. He looked until the day he died. And the legend is, if you drive on the hill, now there's no lights at all, no houses on either side or anything like that. It's just forested. If you angle your car down and you flash your lights 3 times and say, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," you're supposed to be able to see the glow of a green lantern, and it's supposed to be the father looking for his daughter. We were investigating there one time, and there was a really loud crash in the woods, and it was fall time, and we would have been able to hear anybody that was walking through the woods because, it's fall. You're going to be walking on twigs and dried leaves and whatnot, and unless they're hiding there the entire time, just this loud crash, and we had pebbles and little stones being thrown at us earlier, and we only put two and two together because we were looking for ghosts. We didn't think that there'd be potentially cryptids, and we're on the edge of a place called Algonquin Park, which is, I guess, known for having Bigfoot activity there. So who knows? I'd like to go back sometime and maybe look into it a little further, but yeah, that's about the only potential cryptid experience I've had.
Yeah, the Algonquins are really known for Bigfoot activity.
Yep.
And, Dr. Burton kind of, hinted at giants possibly being a spinoff of those. But now I talked to Noe Torres from Edinburgh, Texas. He is a UFO expert. He's also an author, and he went into a huge detail of Mexico's Roswell in El Paso, Texas, where a UFO collided in the 1970s. The saucer was involved, the Mexican military. All of them who were there died with exposure. And the USA military, they came in and they took all the evidence. And it's amazing to hear about all this kind of stuff you've never even heard about before. And he does, he has one book, Fire from the Sky. It's about the 1966 incident, and and Ponce, Deputy Sheriff Ponce, he was involved with that too. So yeah, if you're interested in that, look up Noe Torres. He runs the UFO Festival in Edinburgh, Texas, and he got a new book out now about similar UFO events in Texas. So. And then also Dr. Burton, he's got paranormal book too for Texas. It's called Paranormal Big Country. There's a lot of different stories that he could tell you about UFO or paranormal events in Texas if you're interested in Texas stuff.
Yeah, I'm interested in any topic anywheres.
And you know what? You think, okay, all these experts and whatnot, but just general people who have general experiences, genuine experiences. Yep. I find them so interesting because they're just general people like you and me. Yep. You had talked about an episode where, you were just talking about with the dog and whatnot. Well, we have a local thing here and a place where I live that I never even heard about until somebody mentioned it to me. It's called the Flat Rock Wing Gap Witch.
Huh.
And there's a legend about the witch there where she had died, and a lot of people see her coming up out of the swamp in and around that area. And that whole area, that road, Wind Gap is a road, and that leads up to the grotto. Now, the grotto is where one of our popes have been here. And you think, why was the Pope at our grotto?
Yeah.
Well, there was a house there that had an exorcism. And I want to say that house still stands in that area. There's not a whole lot known about it. When you Google it, you can see some TV articles and whatnot. I want to say that house burned down. But yeah, why was he there in that area?
Which pope was it?
I can't say the name of it, but there is a monument there saying when he was there and who and whatnot. I should take a picture of it and put it with that episode that I did with that person.
Yeah.
And, when we were talking about, ghost stories, some of my biggest episodes that people listen to are from genuine people, genuinely having ghost encounters in like normal places like hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
One lady, she was a patient, woke up. There was a nurse she alleged was at her bedside, but it wasn't any normal nurse. And if you listen to her episode, it's very scary because it pinched her and left. And then the next morning they said, oh, that's so-and-so. We don't talk about so-and-so. And then another person on security was at another hospital. And they had a lot of different experiences while they were acting as a security guard and seeing something that was unexplained. And then, I don't know if it was the next day or that night, somebody said, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. Here's their picture. He looked at the picture. Being a security officer, they are very highly trained in how to detect different details. Looked at the picture. Yep, that was that person.
Oh, wow.
Who had died years ago.
Yeah.
So many different unexplained things and very interesting. I've talked to other people just who have had things happening in their house, like weird things happening. There was one house that had some activity down where the old World War II base was. Mm-hmm. Now, all those barracks were built for World War II. From what I understand, they were never used, but they were torn down and other houses erected. And the place where she lived, there was something carved into the cement, WW2. She thought it was all wrestling, but later on she found out it was War II, right? But she had a lot of weird things happening, like crosses turning upside down.
No way, that's creepy.
Yeah, like really creepy stuff. And that was creepy. And I had another lady who I interviewed who had a lot of other unexplained and different things happen with Ouija boards. And that's a whole nother topic in itself. I don't really usually like to get into the dark stuff, but there is a lot of dark and there's a lot of light. When you think of light, light is metaphysical, dark is dark, right? So yeah, there's always a good and a bad side, and I like to try to stick to the good side, but
yep. the yin and the yang.
You have to delve into the dark side to listen, right? But
I was just going through some of our chats here, and I had forgotten about this because when you mentioned Dr. Judd Burton, I was like, well, that sounds familiar, and I had listened to that episode, and he had mentioned about a book about Van Helsing that was going to be coming out soon. Do you know if that book is out yet?
Now, I did another follow-up episode with him close to Christmas. Oh, yeah, we called it Christmas X-Files.
Oh,
so
cool.
If you look for the Christmas X-Files rendition, he does talk about that book and how he is getting very close to releasing it, but he does say a few words about it. He doesn't like to give up too much before things are released, but he has a whole empire of things called Burton Beyond. If you're interested in anything, whether it be giants, cryptids, vampires, werewolves, demonology, he's also an ordained minister, so he has been involved with different exorcisms also. So he's seen the good and the bad. Yeah. So
Burton Beyond, what's Burton Beyond? Is that a book that he wrote, or?
That's him. That is all Dr. Judd Burton. Burton Beyond is his empire of all different things related to what he studies and researches.
Interesting.
And I talk about that in his 2 episodes for Christmas X-Files. And he's got 2 episodes, that I did Christmas time.
Nice. Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm, because I work at a hotel front desk. I usually work evenings. And part of our nightly chores, we have to fold laundry. So when I'm in the back folding, I'll listen to a podcast. And that's when I heard that. I'll just pick a particular podcast that time and listen to it. And I'm always partial to vampires and especially werewolves or loup-garou or rougarou or dogmen. That's my favorite cryptid. Thanks to Scooby-Doo. Thanks to Scooby-Doo as a child.
Oh, well, Dr. Burton has a lot of information on vampires and werewolves, and he gets called quite often as an expert in those different topics because he looks at it also biblically, and he can tell you some really interesting and information that you wouldn't have even thought about when it comes to different things like that with cryptids and mythology and things. We were talking about different. I mentioned the word metaphysical. Now, when you think about that, we didn't really talk about psychic mediums very much.
No, not yet.
And yeah, no, we didn't. And, I had Susan Goodman on. She's with Soul Awakening Solutions. And, she's into like Reiki and psychic mediums, energy healer. There's so many different things that are interesting when you get into that topic. Have you talked much to people about that?
Just a little bit, not a whole lot. I would like to branch out and talk more about that, but I just haven't found anyone who's wanted to talk about a lot of that stuff yet.
Oh, she's a really good one. Yeah, I can give you her information.
Yeah,
She's
please.
with, again, the Soul Awakening Solutions. Yeah, that was a really good episode. And I was just looking through some of the notes that I wrote down with Dr. Burton about that. I was looking to see if I wrote anything down about his werewolves. But if you look up Burton Beyond and Google it, you can find a lot of different stuff for him.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look. When did you start your podcast and how many episodes do you have?
Do you know, I didn't start until 2023.
Wow.
And you know what else? I started close to Halloween. So
That's
even
amazing.
though I only started recently, I have over how many? Because when you called, I was in the middle of writing out how many different episodes I had. I didn't get through them all, but I've got close to 30 in season 1 in 2023. Now season 2, I've got a lot of people already lined up. I'm really excited about. I've got people coming on. I don't know if you ever heard of HorrorCon.
Yes. Yes.
It's you have? Okay, that's relatively new. So I got C.W. Penny is coming on to talk about NL HorrorCon. And I also have I like to support local. Mm-hmm. So I've even got our TV news weatherman.
That's cool.
Yeah, because when you think about Atlantic and even Ontario, Canadian weather is horrible.
Yep.
And there's so many things that can happen that are scary and spooky and downright horrible just with the weather.
Yes.
And you had talked about cryptids. Well, I also talked to Newfoundland, Labrador, a place called the Rock Wildlife Rescue. Mm-hmm. And she talked about a lot of different animals because, there's a lot of people who say that there's different animals here who they think or they thought were never here, such as cougars, wolves. Huh. You had mentioned werewolves.
Yeah.
And we get into talking about different species who we thought were not in the Atlantic provinces, but maybe actually are. So I thought that was an interesting.
That is interesting,
episode.
Yeah. Because I find when you're talking about the Maritimes, it's mainly ghosts. There's not a lot of cryptids. There's a few Bigfoot encounters, but it's not huge.
In Atlantic, no, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot that people actually talk about.
Yeah. But
when you think about it, the Appalachians, when we were connected, we were part of the Appalachians. And one of the highest people or encounters and sightings were Appalachians.
You have such a vast knowledge of every topic, and kudos to you for being a new podcast. And you've had so many interesting guests so far. Like I'm very impressed. Like, how do you find your guests? Do you just kind of reach out to them?
A little bit of both. I get a little bit of people reaching out to me. And again, like I said, if you're interested in reaching out to me and getting on an episode and discussing different things, it doesn't have to be about Newfoundland. Because I always say when I opened up, from Newfoundland and Labrador and anywhere else in the world. Yeah. Because, it's a big world out there. So not only do I have those people coming on, but like I said, I've interviewed people from Texas, and I'm very open to interviewing people from anywhere, any country.
Yeah, me too.
mentioned before, that gentleman who's from Bangladesh, but here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I really love talking to him to hear his different cultural aspects on the paranormal, which is in itself a very big, interesting topic. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the blog Product of Newfoundland and another podcast called Strange Truths and Tall Tales with Robert Hiscock.
No.
That, if you're into podcasts, that's another really good one besides Jonathan's, the Odds Newfoundland, the paranormal podcast. But what else I like to do is interview authors, because a lot of times they have such a wealth of knowledge in all the different areas that we're interested in.
Yep.
Like even, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book author Helen C. Escott.
I've heard.
Well, yeah, she's former like RCMP, like a police person.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And and she writes books about different things. And one that I'm really interested, I'm in the middle of reading right now, is Operation Masonic. And that's about the local Masonic temple. Now, of course, everybody knows that's a taboo topic and women are not allowed in the Masonic and, things like that. But I guess that's part of the reason why people are so intrigued with it, because it is a society.
So secretive, yeah.
Yes. Right. But she also does crime novels. And I find that a lot of people who listen to our type podcast also like to read and listen to about crime.
Yes, yes. I know. It's just the two come hand in hand for some reason.
And like horror, for some reason, it gets tangled up a lot with the paranormal, because when people think of paranormal, they always think of the scary stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not all scary. There are some benevolent and very happy and friendly ghosts that I've talked to with people who are family members who are friendly and benevolent and look over them as an angel type of thing.
Yeah.
Now, I've got other stuff who I talked to from Grind Mind, like Shane Mills, and he was involved, of course, with making the Newfoundland Nightmare the Hag, and that's a mini-series on TV. Have you seen that one?
No, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a really good couple of different episodes, and he had a lot of folklore experts on there who I've also went on to interview. But if you haven't seen that mini-series, that one's really good too. And Fogfest, have you been to Fogfest yet?
No, what is that? I haven't heard of it.
Oh, well, Fogfest is all things horror in Newfoundland and Labrador, and every year they have it. And if you want to know more about it, you can go to Shane Mills' site, and he's with the Fogfest now. And also Mike Hickey. Are you familiar with Mike?
No.
So Mike Hickey has, it's called Terra Nova. NTV hosted him a couple different times with a couple different series that he's had. He's also was involved with some Fogfest and Fright Hype. He's coming out with his own NTV episode this year, I want to say, called Terror Nova. Not Terra, like the place, but terror, like, oh my gosh, I'm scared, Nova.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm really looking forward to his stuff. And Donnie Love, I had him on too from NTV. Do you know him from Adventures Unknown?
No. All these people you're mentioning, I'm like, I have no idea. This is amazing.
Yeah, oh my gosh, Donnie is into a lot of different stuff. Like, he's a producer too, but he's got a lot of new exciting things coming up. He had a really funny, spooky episode on one of his adventures, but he tells a lot more about his life and all the new different shows that he's got coming out. And, I kind of invited him on out on a ghost hunt. I said, now, Donnie, if I get together a ghost hunting team, I said, y'all want to come out with us and do an episode for your new season? He said, sure, why not?
Nice.
What he does is he says, hey, I want to go on an adventure, and knock me up on Messenger, and I'll go and do wherever you want to, and do an adventure in Newfoundland, right? But when it comes back full circle to the spooky stuff, there's so many different people to interview right in your own garden.
Yep.
That you wouldn't even think of, that people who have had experiences who you wouldn't have thought of had an experience, but sure they do.
Have you ever had this happen to you? You're talking to someone, Sometimes you know them, sometimes you don't, or very well. And you're not even talking about the paranormal, and then start talking about paranormal experiences they've had. And then they'll look at me and say, "You don't believe, do you?" I'm like, "Oh, I do believe. Continue, and I'll tell you why after you're done your story, why I believe in it." And it's just, I don't know why people talk to people about paranormal stuff without even talking about it to begin with. Have you ever had that experience?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But then I have the opposite where you tell them, "Hey, yeah, come on the show. I'd love to have you on, talk about a few things." And they're like, "I don't have anything paranormal or spooky to talk about." And then later they'll be like, "Oh yeah, but this," I'm like, "Well, yeah, you've got some stuff you can talk about." Or you'll get them off the show and then you'll be talking and they'll tell you something really paranormal. I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me that during the podcast?"
Or people who don't even believe in the paranormal at all, and then they'll say, "Well, there was this one time." It's like, yep.
Yeah, no, it's out there, folks, and it's really interesting. If you want to get on and talk to us about it, we'd love to have you all on.
Definitely, yeah.
How far do you find that your episodes go?
So, what do you mean?
Well, usually I'm on Spotify right now. That's my main menu,
Okay.
shall we say, or place where I'm at. Now I want to expand to, other platforms. So right now I kind of like that platform.
Mm-hmm.
It's a popular one. Now there's a lot of other ones that you can get into. But it shows you at the end of the year, it's called a year-end wrap, and it all kind of wraps it up into a nice bow for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where were your episodes viewed the most?
Yep.
What was your most popular episode, and things like that. How was your wrap-up for 2023?
I haven't actually looked yet. I've been so busy, but I release it mainly on Podbean. I actually pay for that platform, and I also release it on YouTube. And then through Podbean, you can release it through other platforms. So I'm on Spotify, Amazon, like I'm pretty much wherever you find podcasts.
Yeah, that's a great idea to get on and branch out like that. There's, for people who are just, starting out, you think, "Oh, it's too hard to do it." Oh, it's easy. It's quite easy to do.
Yeah. And when I do look at the, I can't remember what they're called. I love looking to see where people are listening from. So I could have people from Japan, from the United Emirates, England, just so many, like Spain, Mexico. Is just so fascinating to me to find out. For me, it's not about the numbers of downloads. For me, it's where people are listening from. I absolutely love the international community listening to my show. It's so fascinating.
I agree. Yeah. And, vice versa, like we had talked about with different cultures and religions.
Yep.
In the future, hopefully maybe for 2024, I can reach out and find more Labrador stories and people from Labrador and places like that on different folklore and experiences that I'm not familiar with that are very deep and rich culture here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and like you said, it's so interesting to see where people in the world listen.
Yeah.
That is very cool, isn't it?
Yeah. The first time I saw that I was having listeners other than North America and England, I was totally blown away. I thought, why is someone in Italy or, listening? Or it just amazes me. I've had people from India, and it's just so fascinating. And my guests so far have been North America and the UK, but I would absolutely love to have other countries as guests to tell me about their paranormal experiences in their country. Like you were talking about Bangladesh guest. It's interesting to see their point of view, not only with the experiences, but especially if they're paranormal investigators. It's interesting to find out if there's similarities between someone in Canada investigating or somebody in Bangladesh, for example. What's different? Do they have different approaches for investigating, or are they pretty much similar? So, I always welcome guests from international. I want to hear everything from everywheres.
I've even thought about maybe doing it in a different language to see, offering it in a different language, because where I was in Texas was South Texas, which is, I would say, almost 80% Spanish spoken word. English is the minority there. So that would be interesting to flip it up and try to do it in a different language to see how far it would go then, right? It would probably go way down south.
Yeah. It would be interesting if we could take our podcast and have someone translate them into other languages. I wonder how popular that would be. That would be interesting to find out.
Yes, it would. It would totally be. And I like to keep it free. I know some people like to monetize their platform. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Yeah, I still like I like to have it free. And some podcaster friends have said maybe you should do with like the Patreon thing where you might have a special episode that only paid members would have access to. And I've kind of thrown that around in my mind, but I haven't really jumped on board yet. But I like having the free platform. I don't make money from the podcast. Would I like to? Absolutely. But that would be gravy for me. I just love doing what I'm doing, and I love talking to so many different people.
I'm the same way, because I'm a permanent full-time nurse. That's my profession, but this is my hobby. I have so many different hobbies. This is just one of my hobbies that I like to do. And no, I'm not getting paid for it. I just like doing it. And sometimes it drives my husband nuts, but or my family members think this girl is crazy. But no, it's just a hobby, and very, very interested in it, and like to share everybody's experience and keeping it real. Hey, Kat.
Exactly. Yes, keeping it real. And have you thought of, and spooky, definitely spooky. Have you thought of monetizing your show yet?
No. I kind of thought I'm on the same wavelength as you, maybe having special episodes for only paid listeners.
Yeah.
But do you want to do that? And are you going to lose listeners? Because who's going to pay for it? Like, who wants to pay? Like, if I'm going through stuff, am I going to want to pay to listen?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Well, my show is not like super huge, like a lot of those podcasts out there, like Sasquatch Chronicles. You can pay to be, and it's an amazing show. I don't know if you've ever heard of that show. You can pay for a subscription and you get extra episodes. But that's great because he's a super huge show. Mine's just a little show. And I don't know. I just don't want to charge. I don't feel right.
I'm kind of along the same wavelengths as you. I like supporting local, but I do branch out internationally to the U.S. and England and wherever else. But yeah, so far right now, I think I'm going to stay on the free platform. But eventually, maybe I will work my way up to only special episodes for paid listeners, maybe, right?
Yeah, maybe. Well, maybe I just don't have the time right now with work and family and everything. So maybe once I retire and I could focus purely on my podcast, maybe I might do something like that. I don't know, but I just don't have the time to put out extra episodes. I'd love to, but...
a lot of people say, they have a structured show where, this time of the month and that time of the month they put out a show. I don't operate mine that way. I have certain recording times, and I let them pick out when they want to record. And then at my leisure, usually the same night, I try to get it out. But I just kind of leisurely chug along and do it, and let the people who want to come on the show, because everybody's schedule changes. Nothing is always written in stone.
True.
And it's, I've had a lot of people, we talked about the weather, that's in Canada, that's really unpredictable. And and so is life. So, yeah. So I have been toying around with the thought of maybe getting visual artist to maybe do some sort of a thing for the logo, and maybe some music or a musician, because I know a lot of musicians. How did you do it for yours, for your logo and your music or your intro?
For my music and intro, I went to a website. It's free. What's it called? Purple Planet? They have, you can buy the music as well, but it's all royalty-free music. And that's how I chose the intro and outro. And I hired someone for my logo, and I started off with the cat logo and the heart. The tail turns into a heart. And then I actually went back to school a few years ago to Algonquin College here in the Valley. And one of the things that the student council had for all the students was they had 2 artists come in, and they were doing caricatures of everyone. It was free, and it was really fun. And one guy in particular I really hit it off with, and he's done a lot of he's done my logos now, and he's since moved. He was from Ontario, I think, but he moved to BC. And but whenever I have any work, I just message him and say, hey, I need some art done. And he's like, yeah, not a problem. And he's a really good guy. So if you want a graphic artist or anyone who does caricatures and stuff like that, I can send you his info if you'd like.
Oh, I've got a lot of people, actually, surprisingly.
Okay.
I even have an artist in the family.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, I like to keep it local when it comes to stuff like that. I've even thought about having maybe a little contest, a local contest, to see who wins it and the most popular one, to see who likes which one the most.
Oh, no. I had a contest a few years ago because my mascot is a black cat, and the cat needed to have a name. So I had a contest a few years ago, like, you got to name the cat. And people voted for Boo, B-O-O. And then, so what I did was, out of everybody who voted for that name, I drew a name and I gave them a Paranormal Heart mug.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. Once you get the logo and all that, then the merch can fall into place, right?
Yeah. I've been toying with a little bit of merch now, so bookmarks and sweaters and mugs and things like that. So
you just use it for giveaways, or do you sell it on your?
I sell them. I haven't really had any other giveaways yet, but I'm trying to figure out how I can do that for 2024, and maybe get some contests or giveaways and get some of the merch out there.
Yeah, that's always fun. Everybody likes to look for merch and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Kat, you're doing great with what you're doing, and also with the CSRS. Tell us more about the CSRS.
Oh, well, it's a team that when we first moved to the Ottawa Valley, a friend of mine messaged me on Facebook and said there's a lady in the area looking to form a team. And so she gave me her name. It was Katie Turner. And so I messaged her, and then we had a meet and greet at the local Tim Hortons here to see who was going to be joining, just meet everybody who was interested. And some people didn't decide to join, others did. And I've been with them for, I want to say, it's been a long time. We've been back now to Ontario for 5 years. We moved out west for 3. So probably 10 years or so. The last couple, since COVID, we haven't been doing a lot of investigations because COVID. But so we started out, I think we're 9 on the team, and now we're 5 ladies.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. We've gone to private residences. We've gone to businesses. We've been to historical places. Like there's a place in Picton, Ontario. I think it was called, was it Picton Heights? I can't remember what it was called. It used to be a military base. There's 3 buildings, and then they turned it into a sanitarium later on. And then it just was abandoned. Well, not abandoned, but they closed the hospital, and they were using it for paintballing. Getting money, had to pay for however many people were going to go there. And we were fortunate enough to go with 2 other teams and go investigate these 3 buildings, and it was pretty interesting. And I'm pretty sure they're slated for demolition this year, those 3 buildings. They're going to be building housing in there now. But it's just so fascinating, the locations that you can go and investigate.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned earlier about that Paranormal NL ghost hunting team.
Yeah.
It's new, launching 2024. We're looking for different places to go, but we want to do like a fresh place. Like, there's so many different ones that everybody already know about.
Yep.
I know we mentioned the Duke, but everybody knows about it. But I don't know how many investigations have actually been in there with equipment, not just, oh, did you hear, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I know Johnny used to go to the Maritime Museum. I can't remember what it was called. He went there quite a few times.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, Jonathan Mallard, John did a lot of investigations there. And, when you read his book about the EVPs, that's very interesting. And his rendition of all of it with the lads, the Paranormal Society that he had, and also with his friend Robert Dumont. And you should check out that other person I told you about, with the Susan Goodman with the Soul Awakening.
What's the last name? Goodman?
Goodman.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a lot of other folks coming on too I'm excited about. So I hope that you have a great season here, and
thank you. You too.
And a great new year. And it was really good talking with you. And now for the folks who are listening who want to get on Paranormal NL again, I'm on Spotify, also on Facebook for Paranormal NL Podcast. And you can head on over to Messenger and message me. My name is Jennifer Vallis-Noseworthy. And I'll get back to you and hook up something for an episode.
Yeah. And folks, you already know what I'm going to say. I'll add all the links to the show notes so it's easier to find her.
Thanks so much, Kat.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for being on. I really enjoyed this. I have to have you on again and talk some more paranormal stuff.
Yes, I'm going to have you over on my show.
I'd love that. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to hook you up for 2024.
That'll
Season
be amazing.
2.
Yes. Thank you.
Upwards and onwards.
Yes. So you take care, Jennifer, and we'll chat soon.
Okay. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay. Bye, Kat.
Well, we've made it to the end of another episode. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, take care of each other. And if you'd like to be on the show or have questions and comments, just drop me an email, paranormalheart13@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Paranormal Heart would like to extend a special thank you to PurplePlanet.com for supplying the music for the show. The views and opinions expressed on Paranormal Heart are those of the host and participants.
Paranormal Heart Podcast.